It is the John Phillips Show on this Jimmy Buffett Friday. It's Randy Wang here as Johnny is on a well-deserved little vacation. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. You can email us at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. Take a couple more calls and emails here on the insurance crisis before we move on to Urban Alchemy. Let's go to Richard in Lakeport. Richard, hello.
Hey.
Howdy.
Solution to this. Howdy. United States runs on supply and demand. So if you got all the insurance companies together and they insured everybody on the United States to cover everything, you name it, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, hail, whatever. It just covers everything. One gives you one blank plan that covers everything. It would lower the premiums.
Oh, I think that's completely true. But right now we're having to pick and choose, and you bundle and save, and nobody is saving any money here.
And the other issue is these counties and cities, they let these people go build houses up in the hills and the forests, and CAL FIRE says, look, we're not going to come out there and put your fires out. You're too far away. You don't have the proper roads or anything else. But the counties don't care. They want to get that tax revenue, the property taxes. So they just let people go ahead willy-nilly and go out and build houses up on hills and mountains and forests. It's that's part of the problem.
No, it totally is, and that's really exploding right now. I have a story in San Diego County. The county just approved this massive development in a designated high wildfire risk zone, and the locals are like, there's only one road. People are not going to be able to evacuate, but they don't care. They want the tax revenue, or if you want to get really cynical, they want the kickbacks that they're getting from the developers so they can run for re-election.
Correct. There you go. Thanks, John.
Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. That is one of the problems here. I mean, we can't really do anything about the homes that we've already built. But I know, California, we got to build. Should we really keep building in these wildfire risk zones without doing all the other mitigation first, including, I don't care how expensive it is, the undergrounding? Let's go to Tom in San Bruno. Tom, hello.
Hello, John. Thanks for taking my call. Here's a comparison for you, comparing the wildfires in Southern California with the 2010 PG&E explosion in San Bruno, which my neighborhood was part of. I had State Farm insurance at the time, and a lot of the neighbors had their insurances. And all of the neighbors that I know of, which is quite a few, everything was covered, including smoke and damage inside the homes, replacing wall boards. I myself had a skylight replaced. 3 months later, I had interior walls replaced, everything cleaned up. Service master came in, cleaned up everything. All the claims were submitted to State Farm. Of course, State Farm turned around and probably billed PG&E for it. But everything was absolutely covered. And then for myself, 2 years later, it was discovered my roof had a problem because of the fire, and that entire roof replacement was replaced. So I think people look at their provisions of their insurances and know exactly what's covered, but more importantly, the FAIR plan really does need to be fair and cover everything related to that fire.
I think you're totally right about that. And there are so many different things that happen from a fire that aren't just your home burning down. And if we're not covering that, then that doesn't sound like a real policy. And a judge already ruled that the policies the FAIR plan is writing and what they're claiming is illegal. But we'll see what happens with that. Thanks so much for the call, Tom. Appreciate it. Wow, that guy was right there with that gas explosion that PG&E caused. And then PG&E went down to burn down several towns. Couple emails here. Let's go to Alan, who writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. What do we do if California is utterly unaffordable? I move back home to flyover country, and I take the money I still have with me. Good point. Here's an email. Hey, Randy, we've had an independent insurance company for the past 25 years. When the bleep hit the bleep, we received a letter of non-renewal. Our agent helped us navigate the FAIR plan for fire-only insurance. Our insurance company would continue to insure us for everything else except fire. So, of course, in my mind, I assumed we'd see a rate drop since they weren't covering us for fire. Nope, not one dime. It stayed exactly the same, except now we're forced to pay additional thousands for fire for the California FAIR plan. How is that fair? Where your insurer says, we'll cover everything but fire, you have to pay the same, and now you have to pay for the insurance company. Jeff writes in and says, my cynical self was wondering if this insurance crisis is a manufactured land grab. Gavin's a puppet of the CCP. Is he helping to work China acquire the entire state? Well, I certainly hope not. And Will writes in and says, whatever the libs control and proclaim is one thing, no matter what place your bets, it's the opposite. Under libs, the DOJ is the Department of Injustice, the Department of Education is the Department of the Truly Uneducated and Stupid, DEI is DIE, and the FAIR plan is as unfair as it gets. You know what? Let's go ahead and go to that story. In San Diego County, residents are very upset in an area called Harmony Grove because the county is approving a massive development in a very dangerous fire zone, even though the residents say this is a terrible idea because the state has a housing element. We need to build, and there are plenty of places in the state to build where it isn't a wildfire risk. But no, let's go ahead and build there too. Here is a report from CBS 8 in San Diego.
That's right. The site of this proposed housing development here is in an area where several wildfires have already happened.
This is a great idea.
Including the Cocos fire back in 2014. Now, this fire risk has led to widespread community opposition.
By the way, I just got to know right now, the county's approving this, the developer's building it, but does the developer have to get some kind of insurance to build this, or they're just going to build it, and then when people go to buy or rent from here, they won't be able to get insurance?
Now, this fire risk has led to widespread community opposition, with opponents saying approving this project will be risking lives.
I am so upset. I can't even express how upset I am.
Directly following the unanimous vote to approve the Harmony Grove Village South project, residents who already live in the community, who formed an opposition group called Don't Burn Us.
It's a very good name for an opposition group. We are Don't Burn Us, San Diego County.
Say they feel burnt by the Board of Supervisors.
I knew there was going to be a pun in here, but you know what? It's going to happen.
Who formed an opposition group called Don't Burn Us, say they feel burnt by the Board of Supervisors.
And I really feel like the supervisors let us down, like they are willing to gamble and risk our lives.
Well, they want that. This is how local government thrives. This is why, even though ideologically, wow, I can't say that word today. The boards of supervisors in places like San Diego, city councils in places like Los Angeles, they are aligned with the state of California on let's build. It doesn't matter if people don't want it. We got to build. The reason local municipalities are opposed to things like Scott Wiener's SB 79 that is currently sitting on Gavin Newsom's desk is because if they're taking out of the decision-making process, that means that, like we've seen on the city council for many years and many indictments, there's no opportunities for kickbacks, for bribes, or legal campaign contributions.
Located outside of Escondido in unincorporated San Diego County, near Harmony Grove and Elfin Forest, this development project would add more than 450 new homes to the area, along with an estimated 1,000 more vehicles. Opponents of the plan say in the event of a wildfire, the current 2-lane road would not be able to support a safe and expeditious evacuation.
And this is one of the things that we have seen evidence of this over and over again, but we keep repeating the same mistakes. When you had the horrific campfire in Paradise, people were burned alive because they could not evacuate fast enough because there was just one road to get out of town. We all remember the visuals of what happened on January the 7th when those fires started roaring through the Pacific Palisades. The traffic on Sunset Boulevard was so terrible that people abandoned their cars to run from the hills, which then made it very difficult for fire trucks to get up there. But we've seen this happen over and over and over again. Yet once again, now in San Diego County, let's approve a project that does not have a safe entryway or exit way.
They just don't have the capacity.
Kevin Bernard has lived in Harmony Grove for 30 years, right next to this proposed development.
It's clear we haven't learned anything from what happened in L.A. earlier this year. Someday we'll be in the same position, and it'll be a disaster. And it could happen next year. It could happen 20 years from now. But it will happen.
And we do build in a lot of places where it sure doesn't seem safe to do so.
The project's developer, though, said based on the fire experts they've consulted, their plan would be safe for the community.
The HGVS project not only meets code, it exceeds requirements in several key areas.
You building another road? Because that would be nice.
Leading up to the board's vote, Chair Tara Lawson-Remer asked the developer,
since we're starting from scratch, and I just heard that it's easier to underground those lines when we're starting from scratch, is the power going to be underground? How smart of a development is this going to be?
Leading up to the board's vote, Chair Tara Lawson-Remer asked the developer this.
The core question I have for you is, would you live here? Would you feel safe?
Without question, I would live in Harmony Grove Village South for the reasons that we've said. The exterior fuel mod and the interior protections, it's as good as it gets. It's as protected as it can be.
But these residents remain unconvinced, especially when it comes to an adequate means of escape in case of an emergency.
It will result.
It's something that, unfortunately, especially if you're a diehard with all of the climate ideology, you think these things are only going to get worse. And that may be true. So shouldn't we prepare as much as possible for safe ways to get in and out of communities? Shouldn't we be working on, instead of making traffic worse everywhere, figuring out how to improve traffic for the sole purpose of if we have to evacuate in an emergency?
It will result in gridlock, and it's a real roll of the dice as to whether you kill people in these circumstances.
And opponents of this project say their fight is not over. They say they plan to explore all of their options, including potentially heading to the courts.
And we do see a lot of this. That's what's going on there in San Diego County. We see a lot of neighborhood groups who are up in arms, who are upset. They're not being heard. Their voices don't matter because all that matters is development, development, development. Build, 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 because we're not building enough. And it's so funny. At the same time where everyone running for governor says we're not building enough, we're not building enough, we're not building enough, you sure do see a hell of a lot of approvals for building up and down the state. But no, it's still not enough. And apparently, at least with everything that has been built so far, and every single policy that the state of California in the last 7 years of Gavin Newsom that have been focused on fixing the housing market, that have been focused on all these reforms to CEQA, that's been fixing all of these things to make it easier to build taller, easier to build faster. None of it has lowered the cost of anything. Part of that is, yes, inflation has had something to do with that. Interest rates have had something to do with that. But also, because of how expensive it is to build in California for things like, and, one of the few people that talks about this is Steve Hilton, who's running for governor, is local municipalities charging things like impact fees to developers, where, again, cities and counties make a whole lot of money on development just on these fees, which then means that it's going to cost you so much more to build. The thing you're going to have to build now is no longer a single-story 2 to 3 bedroom house. you're going to have to build something much bigger. Or if you're going to build multifamily, you better build luxury multifamily. I'm not making this up. There is an apartment building in San Diego County that is charging exorbitant rents, but it has great amenities like a bowling alley. I don't know who asked for a bowling alley inside an apartment building, but I sure as hell would not want to have that impact my rent every single day for something maybe I would use once. Do you sign up for the bowling alley? How does this work? But yes, the things that we do build, especially in a place like San Diego, which I got to point this out. Todd Gloria, the current mayor of San Diego, has celebrated the fact that San Diego has approved more housing than any other place. Of all the big cities in California, they've approved double the amount of housing. We've all talked about the ADU bonus program where you can build apartment buildings in your backyard, 6 stories tall, have 20 units in there as long as it's near transit. Again, all of this is stuff that's happening without SB 79. And we build and build and build. By the way, those ADUs are going for like $3,000. But Todd Gloria has this celebratory press conference talking about how we're doing it right. We're building, 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 and it's helping out San Diegans. And he does the press conference in front of a newly finished apartment building where the rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is $4,000. $4,000 a month for an apartment, and we are talking about that like it's a success. You look at the things that are actually getting built in places like downtown LA, and what we're building is not what people want. Now, there's all kinds of reasons for that. Why are we building all of these expensive luxury apartments? Why are we building apartment buildings with bowling alleys? Well, it has a little to do with private equity firms that invest in these kinds of things and real estate trusts who are looking at the face value of these things to pace on an investment. The people who are building a development aren't the ones who are renting it out. And there's a whole system that doesn't seem to be serving the average person. And that is why you look at everything this state has done. You look at everything your local county and city has done to increase building, increase housing, even if Gavin Newsom signs SB 79. I don't think, even if they could build 6-story apartment buildings where they're supposed to be single-family homes, that it's going to make any of them any cheaper. Except for, of course, affordable housing, which is a misnomer. Affordable housing just means subsidized housing. And who do you think is paying those subsidies for low-income people to live in apartment buildings? Let's go to the phones and go to Bill in Irvine. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy. Just on the same topic there. So SB 79, which I'm sure Newsom will sign because it's just another further direction into communism. The problem with that bill and the problem with the direction that these the state legislature in Sacramento wants to do, you take a 6-story apartment building, we'll call it what it is, Section 8 housing, from what they were going to say, affordable housing. So, for example, they're proposing one in Fairfax. Fairfax is a little town in Marin County. They want to put a 6-story Section 8 building. Here's the deal: when those affordable rents go up, if those people don't pay their rent, they're still going to stay there. Basically, the rent's on us, the taxpayer. Section 8 housing is also called pay if you want to housing. So you cannot force these 6 to 8-story apartment buildings into communities of single-family homes and destroy the property values of those residences because of some government experiment by putting these ugly apartment buildings in these single-family communities. There's plenty of places to build. Like you say, like in North County, San Diego, they're building a fire area. It's ridiculous. There's plenty of non-fire areas to build, and there's plenty of of areas that are not single-family communities to build.
You're totally right about that, Bill. We're running out of time. But the problem is we now have a class of politician and a class of voter that believes urban sprawl is to blame for all of society's ills, and the last thing we can do is expand or build new cities. We just got to build vertical. If you ever miss an episode of this show, and you probably don't listen to all 3 hours every day. If you do, good for you. But if you don't and you want to catch up over the weekend, search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You could download all the episodes. You could do what George Gascon does to himself in the middle of the night.
Do a Google on YouTube.
I got to update this liner. Or you can get the free KABC app. You can get the free KSFO app. Believe you me, you want to listen to our podcast. Otherwise, you're going to have to listen to Gavin Newsom's podcast.
Feces everywhere. No compassion.
One of the things that a lot of local municipalities have been doing to shore up their budgets in ways that they can do without having to go to the voters are jack up your trash fees. And we saw Los Angeles do that to fix their budget deficit. We've seen San Diego do that to solve their budget deficit, but also jack up parking fees. And people, the easiest way to notice something that will piss you off as a member of the great state of California is when you go to park somewhere and you see how expensive it is to go participate in the local economy. You've seen what's going on in San Diego, where during special events, which is anytime there's a Padres game, the parking meters are going to be $10 an hour. The city of Los Angeles just voted to increase parking meter rates. We're at the point now where you will never carry enough change to actually use money for these things. You've got to swipe it with your credit card or one of these godforsaken apps where sometimes there's no cell reception in the place where you need to put in your parking. Well, there is one place in California that had a little bit of a parking revolt because the locals saw what was going on and how much new parking fees and parking meter systems were ruining their downtowns. They spoke up and they fought back. And in San Anselmo, the local government decided, hey, maybe we should start bleeding our citizens through parking fees. For more, here's KPIX in the Bay.
They say you can't fight City Hall, but residents upset over a new paid parking system didn't have to because the city council agreed with them. John Ramus has more.
You never hear this in California, and you love to see it.
For the first time, the city of San Anselmo instituted paid parking on its main commercial street. But then they did something extraordinary, something you rarely ever see. After only 3 months in operation, they canceled the entire program and admitted they had made a mistake.
Look, I firmly am in the camp that if you charge too much for parking, there's a certain portion of the population that will just avoid your area entirely. That's why it's one of the many reasons I don't go to downtown LA. Unless I completely have to, and I haven't even been to a basketball game at I'm not calling it what it's called now. I'll call it the Staples Center forever. But yeah, if you're going to go to a Laker game or when the Clippers were there, a Clipper game or a King game, you're going to have to plop down that $25 to go to the Staples Center. But are you going to pay $20 just to go have dinner? Like, unless you're going to a specific event downtown, no. And Lyft and Uber, those aren't cheap anymore. Especially, you always have to consider not just the cost of the Lyft or the Uber, but the cost of the fact that now you didn't drive, so you're going to let loose with the booze, because booze is expensive.
The city paid more than $140,000 for the app-based parking meters located on each block.
And we're totally going to make our money back with that one.
The city paid more than $140,000 for the app-based parking meters located on each block. But the system required a credit card and or smartphone to pay the fee. And Derek Mitchell, who owns the Marin Outdoor Trading Company, says it was too much for many of the elderly residents of the town.
You're seeing this in so many different places. And this isn't just a California thing. We had, oh my goodness, I forgot about this. So we were in Dallas in February for a week. We were babysitting our niece as our brother-in-law and sister-in-law were having their second baby. And one day we had to ourselves, and we were like, you know what we're craving? We're craving some good old Texas barbecue. Well, in downtown Dallas, you can go to the Pecan Lodge, and the Pecan Lodge is incredible. The problem with the Pecan Lodge is that it's downtown, and so parking can be kind of a mess. But what do you know? There was a paid lot that was right around the corner from the Pecan Lodge, so we could get our smoked brisket and our sausage. Oh, their sausage is incredible. We literally waited for them to smoke more of it. We're like, we'll wait here for 20 minutes. We want the sausage. Had our drinks. It was great. When we were pulling up to the Pecan Lodge, you know how Texas, it just starts raining all of a sudden for no reason because Texas? It starts pouring down rain. And instead of running into the Pecan Lodge, I am standing outside getting drenched as I'm trying to use my phone to scan the QR code of one of these parking machines. And I am fairly advanced when it comes to phone technology. I understand how QR codes work. God help me if I was asking my parents or my in-laws to have to figure that out in the rain. No, thank you. It was worth it, though. If you're ever in Dallas, Pecan Lodge. It's fantastic.
They don't even have the credit card on their phone, and they're trying to take a picture of this sign. It was just, they just gave up and left. Two people right next to each other both just drove away.
Yeah, if you're a downtown business owner in San Anselmo and you literally are witnessing people park because they want to frequent your establishment, maybe your restaurant, maybe your retail, and then they can't figure out how to activate the parking, so they leave. That happens enough times, you realize something is wrong. And while this is the future, because automation is here, and one of the jobs that's going away real quickly is parking lot attendants, all of these things are automated. There is a parking lot in downtown Santa Fe where it used to be someone was operating it and it cost you $5 to go in there. Now it's all automated. It's all on an app, which is nice because the app will tell you that, hey, your parking time is up. But it got way more expensive, and it's so much easier for that to now add up because you're paying with a credit card instead of paying with cash.
The same thing was happening all up and down San Anselmo Avenue as people began boycotting the entire business district.
I got literal hate mail here.
At Creekside Pizza and Tap Room, owner Pat Townsley says he was losing about $1,000 a day from when the parking program first began.
All because the city thought they could squeeze a little more juice out of their citizens. They're actually losing money. There are so many things that local government does that are completely short-sighted. And I got to give at least the locals at San Anselmo applause for raising a stink about this, holding their local elected officials accountable, and I'll give the local electeds credit for realizing their mistake. A lot of politicians will never admit they did something wrong.
We saw it fall off right away. There was a test period in June, and it took off in July, and it went right south right away.
So the angry merchants gathered at a special meeting of the council, ready for a fight, only to find that there was nobody to fight with.
I think, the approach we used here was not the right one.
And that's the first thing we have to admit is that it was badly executed.
I think it has.
Well, yes, especially I got to imagine the average age of someone in San Anselmo is older. And these apps, and there's so many different apps that it can be so confusing. You know, it reminds me, and probably one of the reasons that you're not seeing as quick of an adoption of electric cars as you would like to see if you're Gavin Newsom, is if you want to take an electric car on a road trip, unless you have a Tesla, you're going to need to download 7 or 8 different apps, because every place that has a charging station is a different app that then you got to scan the QR code. And if you're a place like Santa Barbara Wine Country, where I tried to take my electric car on a road trip, some of the apps didn't work. Some of the areas I was in had no reception, so I could not log into the app, and there was no actual way to pay for the electricity to charge the car. We got to simplify that. You know, the gas stations had this figured out quite a long time ago. You tap your credit card, good to go. I don't know why we need an app for everything, especially when so many different parts of the state of California on a road trip don't have good reception.
It was badly executed.
I think it has damaged our economic vitality. I want us to come back. I want us to be a town that we make the newspaper and the TV because of our parking. We're a wonderful place. I'd like to see that again.
The council voted unanimously to repeal the entire program, and by the next morning, the confusing pay meters were covered, and signs proclaimed the return of free 2-hour parking.
It only cost them $140,000 for those machines, which I don't think they can get a refund on, and thousands and thousands of dollars of lost tax revenue from these local businesses that had to suffer because we got to make some more money on parking.
The town still owes $86,000 for the machines.
Oh, boy.
Which will be slowly paid off from the 2 existing paid parking lots. But spaces along San Anselmo Avenue are open to all, and the business owners who were gathering their pitchforks are now giving the city leaders a tip of their cap.
Yes, I think it's pretty unique that a town council would take such immediate attention, take such a look and a step back and go, oops, we screwed this up and now we're going to fix it.
I love that. I love that. And, you know, I always believe you've got to chastise your politicians when they do something stupid. But when they do something right, or again, do something unheard of and admit that they made a mistake and go back on a stupid policy, thank you. You're human. You admitted it.
The president of the Chamber of Commerce agrees.
I believe the good lesson of all of this for everybody involved is that the people spoke loud and clear, and the town listened immediately. So that's great. Overall, I believe it turned out really well. We are very happy, and it was a great day for the entire town.
The paid parking program began as a way to pay for greater enforcement of the 2-hour limit. Now the town will have to figure out how to do that without driving off the very customers they're trying to make room for.
And by the way, this is something that I believe is infinitely more possible in a small town. San Anselmo has a population of 12,000. It's probably one of these places where everybody knows everybody. And the politicians know every single one of their constituents and have to be held accountable. You know, as much as, you know, the party in charge of California loves to advocate for big government, when you have counties as large as Los Angeles County, when you have cities as large as Los Angeles, you're not really getting a whole lot of representation for as much as you're paying. Also, for some reason, we pay city council people in the city of L.A. $220,000 a year. Different topic for a different day. Let's go to Linda in Burbank. Linda, hello.
Yeah, Randy, since you're talking about parking, California passed a law, AB 413. AB 413 means people have to park 20 feet away from the curb. What, we got to get a measuring tape to figure out we have 20 feet or we'll get ticketed?
Oh, this is the daylighting law, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It effectively is taking away a whole bunch of parking because they're worried that if you park too close to the curb, the bicyclist can't see you.
Oh, yeah, they're saying the pedestrians can't see us either.
Now, Linda, I got to know, I haven't lived in Burbank for quite a while. Is there still a lot of free parking in Burbank, or are they taking that away there, too?
I think there's still some.
That was one of the things I loved about Burbank. You go anywhere in downtown Burbank, and the parking was free, including near the movie theater, which is unheard of in so many places.
Yeah, I chose not to drive since Newsom became governor because I knew he was going to jack up the price of gas.
Which did happen. Thanks so much for the call, Linda. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. You can email us as well. We'll read some of your emails when we come back. JohnnyDon'tLikeShow@gmail.com. That's JohnnyDon'tLikeShow@gmail.com. Johnny is on vacation. He'll be back a week from Monday, but I'm here for you. I'll be here every single day from noon to 3. And then I also do a local show on KABC, our Los Angeles station, from 5 to 6. So if you're in the Bay Area and you want to listen to that, you can get the KABC app or go to KABC.com and stream it. Or if you're driving in LA, you can listen to AM 790. But I do the 3 hours a day here. Then I sit in a horrible traffic to get home. And then at 5 to 6, I do that 1 hour local show. So it's a good time. We call it the News Blitz. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Alan writes in, hey, Randy, the unfunded liabilities, the housing crisis, the fire victims' plight, and everything wrong in California only highlights the need for citizens to vote no on Prop 50. The Democrats in this state only want to raise your taxes and screw you. Wake up, California, and vote these left-wing progressive Democrats who could care less about you and vote Republican. Don't make this one-party state worse. Alan, thank you so much for that email. And thanks to everyone who emailed us during the show, especially Cindy, who sent that story about the FAIR Plan looking to jack up your rates. As we go into the weekend, I want to remind you of one thing. More people in this state need to know what's going on when it comes to Ricardo Lara.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
So I'm going to ask you a favor. You could do two things. You could download the podcast of the John Phillips Show, and you can share the show that Johnny and I did on Wednesday talking about Ricardo Lara's safari. It was literally called Ricardo Lara Went on a Taxpayer-Funded Safari, and you could share that with your friends. That would be great. But take us out of it. The incredible reporting of Stephanie Sierra at ABC7 in the Bay, and they also ran the story on ABC7 in Los Angeles. If you have any friends that are dealing with jacked up insurance rates, you got to send them this story. And the easiest way to do that is go to YouTube and just search for Ricardo Lara, and it'll probably pop up. The story is called Safari Limo 5-Star Resorts, California Insurance Bosses, Taxpayer-Funded Travel, and you can send that to your friends, have them watch it. Right now, the Bay Area one has like 8,000 views. The LA one has like 6,000 views. But I feel like more and more people need to see this nonsense where we are paying for Ricardo freaking Lara.
I'm very kind of sketchy.
To go on a safari. So search for Ricardo Lara or search for ABC7 News Bay Area. Find that report. Share it with your friends. It's very easy to do. That's going to do it for us on this Jimmy Buffett Friday. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you Monday. We're here every day from noon to 3. This is The John Phillips Show.